Hey, John.
Hey, how's it
Hello.
going?
It's been a day. We'll just say that.
Hmm.
Is it Monday again?
Yes, I
Monday.
think or Tuesday, something like that.
It feels very much like a Monday to me.
Hmm.
Monday things have been happening to me today. Um, Now, other than that, it is going to be another eat sleep or fantastic week on Code It Live. I'm getting tongue tied with all the branding here.
Yeah,
Uh, it is Sleep Code, the official Teller podcast, of course, where we discuss the latest in tech and dev news.
yep.
Um, so let's jump on into it, John.
All right.
A lot of the links today are provided by you, my friend. Thank you
Yes,
for picking up the ball today and running with it. I've had
no worries.
quite a busy afternoon here. Um, Actually, I'm trying to remember whose link this was. I think this might have been mine, but
This is yours.
this is mine. So, Visual Studio, major UI upgrade in the latest version of Visual Studio 2022. So, this is a blog post that kind of outlines some of the decisions that they've made in the new version of Visual Studio to kind of get it more on brand with the Fluent, Microsoft Fluent design
Hmm.
framework. And they're just kind of showing off like what some of the like iconography that's changed. They're trying to make things a little more legible, uh, make things a little more. I like the terminology they used here: consistency, legibility, and familiarity. Those are all very good terms to use when you're talking about redesign. So they did a little comparison of the last version with the current one. This was like one of the big gripes like I had when they originally redid Visual Studio. I don't know if you remember this, John, but they went like full pendulum into the like monochromatic minimalist
Yep,
space at the very
yep,
beginning of this.
yep.
And I think it was a good reset for them. um, I'm glad they did previews back then because
Hmm.
the first the first preview of Visual Studio 2019 was pretty bad. Like,
Yes.
was it 2019 or was it earlier? I can't remember.
I think it was before that. It was.
2015.
I seem to
Yeah.
remember 2015 was
Yeah.
actually the
2015.
first foray into the sort of let's not use any color at all. Let's just make it all. It wasn't battleship gray. It was more like lukewarm blue. So
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't very appealing.
But the
And
icons were monochromatic, which made it very difficult to find things
yes,
you're looking for. Because, for example, like this light bulb sticks out among the kind of other colors because it's got that yellow color. So you get like this muscle memory built up of the yellow things over here. I'm going to click on that, and then
right.
like you get presented with this gray menu with gray icons or black icons, and you're just like, yeah, where was that thing again?
Yeah.
So they've added a little bit more color back into it, it looks like. So you can see like with the server explorer and
Mhm.
toolbox and stuff. It's nice to see the color come back. And some of the shapes and things have been tweaked a little bit to make them a little bit more discoverable, um, bring a little more consistency to it. I love this design comparison stuff they're doing because I'm a design nerd. So I love to see how the sausage is made with all this.
Yep.
So good little blog post here. There's some new themes as well. They've tweaked some of the existing themes, but they've added some new ones too.
Mhm.
And they're making those available through the Visual Studio Marketplace, so you can add them on kind of ad hoc. So they don't kind of like force these things on users. You can pick these things as you want them. There's also, I think I shared it on the show before. There's a project they're working on to allow users to port themes from Visual Studio Code to Visual Studio. So there's going to be even more themes than the ones that they mentioned here. Um, but overall, they're improving the look and feel of it, and Visual Studio 2022's coming along nicely.
Perfect.
Yeah, I thought I saw another article in your stuff about Visual Studio. Maybe I'm wrong.
There was a link to a similar blog, um, but it wasn't related to Visual Studio, other than the fact that they're announcing the launch event.
Oh, that's what it was. Somehow I'm missing it in my browser tabs here.
Hmm.
Let's make sure I get that one up there. Uh, 1 second, 1 second. Let's talk about that one.
This is Ed tap dancing now,
I
as he
am.
brings up a page.
I've been on phone calls all day, so this is my mind is not in the right context here. Dev blog, join us for the Visual Studio launch event. Let's see. Let's see if I can get this over to the main screen where it belongs. Come on, let's do this. There we go. Amanda Silver, November 8th, launch for Visual Studio 2022. So I'm going to be actually at a conference for the first time in like 2 years on November 8th. So I'll be celebrating this in Atlanta. So
Fantastic.
the launch events on the 8th, we're still in previews right now, but it looks like they're on the release candidate. So this is almost the final version here. Um, I've been using it throughout all the previews, and I'd say it's really stable now. I haven't really had any issues that I can think of.
Hmm.
It's pretty streamlined.
Yep.
There's a lot of new Git tooling in there that's helpful with like creating Git commits and keeping track of changes and all of that. They pushed from like previous versions of VS where it was kind of a mixed up mashup of different Git tools to a very streamlined set of tools now. There's like a
Yes.
Git menu and tab and everything in there. I love seeing that. I try to stay away from the command line if I have to. Go to the command line. It's got to be for something very important.
All right.
I mean, if you could get it all in one tool, why leave the tool, right? I
That
think
is
that's
true.
the point of Visual Studio. Visual Studio
Yes.
Code's a little more. You kind of go where the attention is needed. Jump out to the command line, pull up a terminal if you need to do that thing. Visual Studio, on the other hand, it's very luxury car feel, right?
That's right. So yeah, make sure you check that out. Launch events are kind of fun. That's where they take the wraps off everything. And if
Hmm.
you haven't been keeping track of the latest and greatest, then this is your time to catch up. And if you miss it, it's usually recorded, so you can watch it double speed. Uses a lot of fluff and stuff you have to get through. Yeah, make sure you check out the live event and download it, and yeah, be awesome.
They got a fantastic team of PMs and presenters on their team as well.
Yeah,
So, like Amanda Silver, for example, and I'm trying to remember the other folks that are there. They're just really good at not only being program managers, but they can get on a live show and
sure. You got guys
demo
like Richard
things.
Lander, Scott Hanselman, who isn't officially part of that, but
Mhm.
is a good presenter. You see him at most Microsoft events. I don't know if Guthrie will be there, but we'll see. And then yeah, I'm sure you
Kendra
see various
Havens
folks.
was one that I was thinking
Yep,
of.
yep, yep.
Yeah, she's excellent at doing these events as well. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Also looking forward to .NET MAUI. The .NET Conf event is coming up. While .NET MAUI's been delayed slightly, they are still pushing previews. So there's improvements that came with the last version of MAUI. It's pretty self-explanatory here: borders, corners, shadows, and performance. So a lot of this is UI related stuff that's coming in MAUI. So you do need the latest bits for this stuff to work. So make sure you're
Hmm.
on that latest version of Visual Studio we just talked about. Make sure you have the latest .NET 6 release candidate installed. And then Maui's going to stay on a preview path for a while, so keep your eye out for that. But they've added to the component tool set, like these border components and some other types of UI kind of niceties, like drop shadows and things. So they're little wins, but they're little and big all at the same time, if that makes sense. These
Yep.
are like those nuanced things that when you don't have them, users notice, but when you do have them, nobody seems to really, care.
Yeah.
but when they're gone, that's why people are like, oh, something's not right about this UI. It could use a little bit of fit and finish.
Yes.
So some of those things made it in this preview release. Some cool
Awesome.
stuff there.
Hmm.
Selenium 4, John. What do we talk about with
Yes.
Selenium 4?
So Selenium's a great tool if you're doing any type of integrated testing for websites. That is, if you want to drive the browser through a set of automated scripts. We use this quite extensively. It's a great tool used extensively for those test scenarios. And Selenium 4 has just recently been released. There's a lot of great features listed in here, but basically, if you're looking to do any sort of automated user-based integration testing with your websites, that is sort of testing the front end to end if you can, through user actions in the UI, then this is the tool for you. And Selenium has been around for a long time, and is used quite extensively. So version 4 is now available. If you haven't used Selenium, go check it out. If you're a Selenium user, go check out version 4.
If you're new to like the whole end-to-end testing and browser-based testing, this is it's a whole ecosystem of these things, and it's a different way of thinking about QA. So if you're a developer, you've never touched it before, check out Telerik Test Studio,
Hmm.
which is a competitor, I guess you'd say, to Selenium. But what's nice about Telerik Test Studio is in Selenium, you're writing your tests manually. On Test Studio, you have this thing called a test recorder that
Yes.
you can jump into, and it'll actually walk you through, anything you're doing in your browser. It's recording behind the scenes and building up the coded tests for you so that you can go in later and kind of tweak those things. So if you're new to this testing environment, then definitely check out Test Studio.
Hmm.
Um, it's a little deep end of the pool if you're jumping straight in on Selenium, but
Yes.
it's cool to see that they're moving along.
Yes.
100 megahertz, or no, the 100 megahertz.
Yeah, 6502. So this was my first computer, 6502. This is something that, speaks a lot to me. I actually used this CPU, the 6502, running at 1 megahertz back in the day. And what this person has done, I think this person's in Germany. They've created a 100 megahertz version of the 6502 microprocessor, and basically he created a board, or she, I don't know, created a board that is capable of running the assembly set and running at the clock rate,
Mhm.
which is 100 megahertz, obviously. Um, so yeah, I think this is fantastic, hilarious. It can definitely run Doom, and I think that if you're looking for a pin compatible replacement for your 6502 CPUs, I don't know why you're still using them, but if there are people who are hobbyists, then this is going to give you a definite speed improvement.
Yeah, so it looks like they used like an FPGA to
Yeah.
create this. So it's a Xilinx. So they've got, I'm sure we've been at this point for a while, but we've gotten to a point where you can use a field programmable array to, you know, create these CPUs that we had many years ago and
Yes.
replace them. That's
Yes.
pretty cool. I like that. It's
Yeah.
kind of just like a drop-in replacement. It's not quite like an emulator, but it's
No.
it's more on the firmware side of things
Hmm.
than you could compare it to like an emulation. But it's not the exact hardware either. It's not the exact
No,
silicon,
but it is
but
pin
it's so
compatible, so it's got the 40
Mhm.
pin support, and so you can drop it in, and yeah, away
Yeah,
you go.
so they've kind of created the I love how this socket is like
I
the
know,
chip on
soldered
this is
in. Yep,
massive.
yep.
Uh, and then you've got this tiny FPGA in here
That
that's
Milano is just one big NAND gate. That's all it is. It's not even an integrated circuit. It's just one big NAND gate.
this is like the opposite of Back to the Future when Marty
Sure.
straps the discrete components to the hood of the
Yeah, this is definitely
DeLorean.
front to the past. That's for sure.
That is so cool. They put all of that in this tiny little chip that used to be, in a chip that size.
Yeah.
And then some. It's probably got room to do like a million
Oh yeah.
other things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. Where did this come up? How did you surface this?
I troll a bunch of boards, and I saw this kind of peak. I piqued my interest when I saw it. I'm like, wait a minute, 6502. Wait, running at 100 megahertz. What the hell? I have to check it out. So yeah, I stumbled upon it.
What is the old man blog feed you subscribe to? Just kidding.
Yeah,
I kid.
grizzled veterans of computerscience.com.
Oh man. About Halo's games back end.
So I've been a longtime fan of Halo. I don't play video games so much anymore. In fact, I really don't anymore. But I did play a lot of Halo when it first came out. And the thing that struck me most about Halo, specifically Halo 2, was its multiplayer support. You have
Mhm.
to remember back in the day when Halo came out, it was a revolution in gameplay for first person shooters. It was beautiful, it was cinematic, it was awesome. And what we saw with Halo 2 in particular is the basically the reinvention of multiplayer. This was first, I think, popularized by Quake. Quake had an amazing back end.
Mhm.
But then Halo took it to a whole new level because all the stats and the replays and things that you could do in Halo 2 were amazing. Like you could see who shot you, when, how, what mood you were in, what orbit the moon was in, etc. And
Mhm.
so what this article did was basically come up with, or basically detailed the back end architecture of Halo, which is still in use today. For they use this as now a framework for multiplayer games on Xbox Live. But really, this is what put Xbox and Xbox Live on the map was Halo and its multiplayer support. And so
Mhm.
anything that details the back end, how it works, the architecture, the thinking into this, the academic background of this dates back to the 70s. But yeah, it's just amazing the engineering that went into this and the amount of concurrency and scalability that it supports. There's some funny stories in here where they're doing testing. I think it's later down in the article where the Azure team actually phoned or rang the one of the testers and said, "Hey, you're crushing us." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm just doing some scalability testing." So yeah,
This is bonkers though. The amount of engineering that goes into a video game on
sure.
the front end is nuts, and then you start thinking
Oh yeah,
about like, as a user, you're just like, "Hey, I'm gonna join a server with some randos and my buddies and just shoot at
yeah,
them." And
yeah,
you never think about all the detailed stuff that has to handshake behind the scenes, and then you get into things like, latency, how much of an issue that is in a first person shooter like Halo,
yes,
where if even there's a little bit of lag, or there's
yeah,
latency type of lag, or even there's a different set of latencies you deal with when you talk about what you're seeing on your screen versus your GPU's rendering versus what the server is seeing on its end and where your
sure. And you have
location
a
is.
lower if you have a lower latency, that actually matters for multiplayer
Hmm.
games. My sons deal with this today with Fortnite when they're playing. So they talk about their ping rate being too high, and they're like, it's not, it doesn't help me. I need to have a better ping. Blah blah blah. I remember hearing about folks, purposely buying T1 lines for their homes so they could play Quake a little bit more speedy. So yeah, it's no surprise that these tweaks exist. I mean, you've got people who are in the financial services who are so concerned about latency that they're building their own pipes to financial systems, etc., for trading purposes, etc. So yeah, I mean, like this stuff matters and it matters big, and it does provide a competitive advantage. So just reading about the back end was fascinating.
Yeah, I remember. I'm trying to find an image of it. Let's see if I can find a good image here. There we go. This is one of the things that will drive you nuts if you're a high, um, like what do you call it? Very like
Competitive.
fast play, yeah, competitive. Uh,
Uh oh, and we just lost Ed. That's all right. I'll keep talking here while he comes back. So yeah, I don't know about you, but I used to play these multiplayer games all the time, and thought they were fascinating to see how they could squeeze out every microsecond out of the back end. So Quake was my first foray into this. I remember playing it over a dial-up, which wasn't great. And then I was playing it at my university, so I'd play it over there, the Ethernet network that was set up there, which was awesome. And yeah, and then later on you'd play on various other networks as well. Um, this stuff is still in its infancy. I mean, even matchmaking can be difficult. Right? Trying to coordinate things like, what's the ping rate, et cetera, on some of these things. Um, so yeah, just reading about the back end for Halo was awesome.
Yeah, it knocked me off the.
That's okay. I've been talking about my experiences with multiplayer gaming.
Oh, so when did it cut me out?
You were about to show us another link to something.
Ah, crud. Okay, that was what I was trying to show you before my browser went bananas.
Okay.
So I was trying to explain this thing called hitbox lag. So when you have infrastructure that's not
Oh, right. Yeah.
built well, like the Halo is got these things in it to compensate for stuff like this. So this is one that drives me crazy as a gamer. This was a problem in Counter-Strike back in the day. It's currently a
Hmm.
problem in Call of Duty. So the
Okay.
idea here is like you have all these bounding boxes, they're collision boxes that go around the physical
Yes.
model that's rendered of your player.
Yes.
So when player B is shooting at this, it's the bulls are going through it because this is what it needs to actually trigger the collision,
Okay.
and it's lagging behind the actual player model. So
Are you
these things
referring to
get
something?
out of
Because
sync.
we're only showing ourselves. We're not showing the
Is it?
browser. Are you showing?
Oh shoot! Yes, I'm
That's okay.
trying to show. It has been one of those days, John.
That's okay. That's okay. That's why we're pair. It's like pair
I
programming.
guess
Like,
it closed
did you
my
forget the curly brace?
my tab out. I guess when this
Oh,
happened.
there you go. Yep.
So yeah, so like this person's, they're gonna aim at the thing they can see, not the thing they
Sure.
can't see. So you're shooting at this thing all day long. You're not getting any hits registered, and then or from this person's perspective, what'll happen is, and this happens in Call of Duty all the time. Like you'll turn the corner, run down an alley,
Yeah.
and your hitbox is still in the in the open somewhere, and people are shooting at where you used to be and missing,
Sure.
technically missing you here. They hit this, and you're far gone from the action, and yet you get hit by
Yeah.
bullets and die.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so frustrating. You're like, I know I took cover, but yet I'm dead. So uh good back end systems compensate for these type of things and
Part of
solve
that, yes,
these. Yeah.
yes, part of it. They have to do prediction things like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It's a very complicated problem, and it's a cool article.
Hmm.
Um, speaking of gaming, John, it's time for our favorite segment. I know it's your favorite
Yes.
segment.
Yes.
It's the Can It Play Doom? I mean,
Right.
I spent so long on that stinger. I mean, I have to use that as much as possible. I think I
Okay.
lost my screen share again.
That's all right.
There we go. Gotta get the right one there. So Doom rendered via checkboxes. So this
Yeah.
is pretty cool. I think both of us put
Uh,
this one on the list.
I don't know if this is cool, but I think it's interesting. So basically, the checkbox is a UI construct available in HTML. It is programmatical through the DOM. And so what this person did was decided, let's create a Doom UI built on top of checkboxes. So these are like pixels, basically.
Yep.
And so these are all checkboxes, basically rendering out um, these pixels.
A new checkbox land. I like
Yes.
that. That's the proper name for that class. So yeah, a checkbox is just a binary thing, right? It's on or off. So they make great monochromatic displays. Why not? I mean, this isn't a case of should I? It's a case of can I?
Yeah.
So
What's
can
interesting
I?
about this is that it uses a combination, I think, of Canvas and WebAssembly to help do this work. I haven't looked at the
Yeah.
source code, but I seem to remember seeing that in the article.
So I'm assuming the WebAssembly portion would be the processing of the Doom game engine, and
Uh,
then
yes, it's probably the host for the game engine, and
mhm,
then it will um, it will message pass updates and stuff
yeah.
between that and the front end, which is Java, the
Well,
JavaScript, excuse me.
probably creates a rendered frame as well. So your screen's buffer, for lack of a better term, or it may be the proper term, I don't know.
Mm,
Your buffer, that frame that's being rendered out, is being rendered as a monochromatic image, and then
yes,
that's being translated to these checkboxes, which
yeah. It's just a
are
giant
in
matrix of ones and zeros, basically.
yeah,
I mean, people
it's
do this with Excel. They do Snake for Excel, and they do other
mhm.
games for Excel. So
I mean, this may as well be an LED like screen or something.
sure,
It's
or a
cool.
pregnancy test, right? Like the one
Yeah,
that we showed.
pregnancy test. That was a funny one. I mean, the point the thing that got me with that more than the Doom part was the fact that all of that technology that can play Doom went into reading the strips on the tests that you would normally just read with your eyeballs anyway.
Sure.
And all they were doing is going, is it one stripe or two? If it's two, then this high piece of technology would output the word yes. It was that was the takeaway I got from it. But the
Sure.
Doom aspect of it was cool too. Uh and then oops, there's where that link went. Android 12.
Yes.
Um this is something I need to look at because it's getting to the point where I need a new phone.
Yeah.
I'm getting close.
This coincides with the release of the new Pixel 6 from Google.
Mhm,
So Android 12, new version of the operating system. There, I don't. I'm not an Android user, so I really don't know much about this. I just saw it and I thought, okay, if you're a developer, you're targeting Google Play. This is something you probably want to know and what's available and what can be done. I think the cursory look I did of the website obviously speaks to a radical new design language. Um, or if it's a, they call it rethinking the entire user interface. So there you go. I don't know what impact this might have on Maui developers. I don't know, how this affects them, etc. I'm sure more questions than answers will be raised,
mhm.
but innovation is always fun to look at. So yeah.
Yeah, and I just checked my phone to see. I am on Android 9.
Oh yeah, hot.
So, yeah, my phone is about 3 years old, maybe 4, and, I think it stopped receiving, like, major updates. So I'm just getting, like, security fixes now through the vendor,
Yep.
not the OS, so
Right.
it's about time for a
Yeah.
new one. This is pretty cool. I gotta
Yeah. It
find a
looks like a
device
new.
that runs it, though.
Yeah. It looks like it's got a new design aesthetic, etc. So have
Mhm.
fun with that.
So teach an old dog new tricks is what you're saying. I need to figure
I
that
don't
out.
know.
I mean, it's basically Windows Phone. I mean, they I saw tiles.
Okay,
I
let's not
mean,
get crazy. This is not Windows Phone.
uh,
Yeah, and this coincides with the release of the Pixel 6, which shipped just today. So this is their latest and greatest flagship model, the Pixel 6. It comes in two versions, the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro, and has, from what I can tell, really, really good cameras. For folks who are utilizing them
mhm,
in sort of social media context, etc., they're definitely worth checking out. And then most of the guts have been re-engineered. The one big change is that Google has moved to the sort of all-in integrated experience from a hardware perspective. So they have their own um, CPU, logic board, etc., all tied into one. It's called Tensor, and this is basically how they're moving the bar forward in terms of their graphical and raw processing power. So
mhm.
they're emulating the sort of Apple model of providing a mobile chipset and building it out themselves.
Interesting. Yeah, this is something I'll have to dive into a little bit. I'm not going to be the pre-order type here, but come December probably I'll be looking at these devices very heavily because it's time for me. It's time for me to get a new one. Travel's starting to come back. I'm going to be using my phone more. Um, like I said, mine's 3 versions out of sync.
Yep.
So things start to get a little wonky in that territory. Like it's not a good
Hmm.
place to be in. I'm not sure if I like the Pixel myself. The bump on the back is a little awkward. Who
Yeah.
knows? Like if that's going to be comfortable in my pocket, but it's worth looking at. It looks pretty cool. I haven't tried the Pixel device myself. I know some people totally swear by them and love them, so
Hmm.
might have to hit up some of those folks and ask some questions about what they think of the last one that they owned.
Yeah.
But looks like a solid device.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, yeah, I mean, they're competing against the the iPhone Pro 13 and 13 itself, and so yeah, a lot of competition.
Web browser engineering looks like
Yes,
a blog post about a big no. This is more than a blog post. This
this is
looks
a
like a
book. This is
book.
an online book that's being written right now to basically build a browser from scratch in Python. And if you're ever wondering about, I've said this before on this show where I've said browser technology is probably the most, and compilers are some of the most complicated pieces of technology you'll ever want to see. And so what these two engineers have decided to do is they're going to build a browser from scratch using Python, and as a result, they're going to write a book. And so this goes into the who, what, where, when, why of browsers, and then it talks about what you have to do in terms of processing web requests and drawing things to the screen and supporting interactions and all that great stuff. So I thought it was just an interesting sort of foray into that world.
It's like really interesting, but at the same time, in the my the more cynical part of my brain is thinking, who's the audience for this book? Like,
I think people who generally want to understand what happens when you type in Telerik.com and hit enter, and then what, right? And so you can read a high level description of that, but to see the practicalities of this in code, I think also resonate. Now, obviously, this is a very sort of fluffy description of it, and then it gets into some of the semantics, but obviously the real world is going to be a lot more hairy. I mean,
mhm.
the amount of hacks that they have to put in to support old websites, etc. That's part of it. So
Yeah, it seems like a really cool project. Now I'd possibly like skim through some of this myself, but I'm trying to think like, would I get anything practical out of this? Like, how
listen, we just
I'm
mentioned
obviously
a
not going to
one.
go like write
Listen,
my
earlier
own
in this show,
web
we
browser.
mentioned a 100 megahertz 6502 CPU. I think we can get away with doing a little bit of Python from time to time.
All right, Mr. Realism. I get it. I get it. No, this is really cool though. It is really cool. I'm thinking outside the box. Like
Sure.
this isn't the uh New York Times bestseller list read, but it is like
No.
the geeky neck beard.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I wanna dissect everything read. I think that's awesome.
Hmm.
I somehow lost this in our mix of things. New
That's
MacBook
okay.
Pros out.
Yes.
Uh, so
Ports are
I
back, baby.
I have
The ports are
opinions.
back.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I mean Apple hardware is always nice. Um, admitting you're wrong would be nice too, though, right?
Well,
Wouldn't that be
this is
nice?
Apple. This is Apple. Come on.
So,
They
uh,
reimagined everything. They reimagined the HDMI port.
I like that they're playing off of the Halloween, I guess, aspect of it too.
Oh,
Scary
okay.
fast. I hope that's what that is. Scary faster.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, their new chipsets are supposed to be pretty nice. Apple or Intel was coming out that swinging though, saying they're going to get Apple back in their good graces.
Okay.
They're like, this is a temporary thing. I don't know, Intel. I don't know.
Yeah. So
We'll see
the
about
big
that.
changes here, Thunderbolt 4, they finally updated the webcam. So it's now a 1080p webcam, which forever, including the
Mhm.
latest and greatest I have, was always 720. And everyone was screaming at Apple saying, please please give us a better webcam. 120 megahertz, 120 hertz, not megahertz, hertz display, which is huge because if you're for rendering, web pages, and they're going to look fluid, they're going to look really great. Battery life still killer. This one's obviously the joke, the ports and stuff. They have a new MagSafe adapter. You can charge, however, through Thunderbolt ports as well, so you can charge
Oh,
both
that's
either
nice.
MagSafe or Thunderbolt, which is awesome. So this is going to hit into that dock market that has been taking off because we've been sort of just using Thunderbolt forever. In addition to that, they got rid of the magic bar, so they could return with function keys. And every developer out there is like, yes, no more magic bar. So yeah, they've got this quote unquote pro keyboard. So yeah, lots of great stuff. It's worth checking out. It is expensive. If you spec out, full M1 Max machine, 16-inch MacBook Pro, this thing's going to run you at least $6,000, I think. It depends on the size of the hard disk that is part of the logic board. I think it goes up to 8 terabytes. So at a 1 terabyte storage, I think it runs just shy of $6,000, which is still an awesome machine. It is pricey, but I mean, you should be using cloud storage. I don't know why you need this much storage. Maybe
we have expandable storage though.
I know. This is the thing that's kind of like, I don't know how important storage is. It's maybe, to have it all built in. I mean, there's going to be that person out there who's like, I got my video files, it's like, yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, people that do Adobe, pretty much Adobe anything, but Adobe Premiere, I think it is, Premiere Pro, and Audacity is
the open source video or audio tool.
Yeah, any Creative Cloud, period. We'll just say that.
It's usually video, never audio. Audio is pretty lightweight. Video is the beefy one. If you're shooting in 8K, that's going to require a lot of storage.
Yeah. So if you're doing like advertising, movies, all that stuff, you definitely want some serious storage. But if you're doing like software development and that sort of thing, expandable
text
storage
files are really beefy. Those text files. Hello world.
I think
megabytes of storage necessary.
File new Angular app, I think, is like 300 meg.
Yeah, but that's because of the Node modules, right? So it's really Node developers are really the ones who are like really happy about that. So
one 8K video or one npm install.
Right.
What we're trying to say. I think that's the rule of thumb. So this SDXC, I want to see. I need to do some reading on it, but I know Microsoft has a new solid state interface and driver set that they used for the Xbox. I wonder if there's any compatibility there, or if this is a standard in any way, shape, or form. Interested in learning more about that. The keyboard, I find it hilarious because people have said this magic bar or whatever you called it is ridiculous. No, there's like 5 people that enjoy using it. The keys were not broke. Do not fix them. Put them back. So those are back. The ports are back. Headphone jack. I mean, all that stuff that's just practical is back. So
I will admit it doesn't look as nice, but it with just the Thunderbolt ports.
Not only that, like the Earth thanks you, right? I mean, come on, how many of these dongles are we gonna have to buy and attach every time they come out with a new MacBook because they won't put the damn ports on the machine? It was getting a little ridiculous.
Well, the thing is that when you add ports, you sacrifice space, and space is a premium, especially when you consider like they're trying to put as much battery in there as possible, which is easily the biggest component in the hardware. But when you're trying to conserve space, adding ports does take up room, especially like an SD card slot. That thing's massive. So I can understand their reasoning for using a universal bus like Thunderbolt. But, it does help if you're on the road not to have all these dongles, like an ant carrying food, just all these dongles with you to just basically connect your devices.
I don't remember which edition of the MacBook it was, but there was like this hilarious Twitter thread where people were posting their packages showing up And like normally what would happen is, Apple's got that culture of we're going to wait in line for it, or if it's, getting shipped, like we're going to do the unboxing and we're going to post pictures. And that's all fine and good. I'm not teasing on any of that. But what had happened was they had so many dongles that they needed for this MacBook that they were getting those shipments first. So they ended up creating like this big thread of I got my dongles, and then the MacBooks are coming like a week later. So there was like a huge like sharing post of my dongles came today, and it
This
was
is my carrying bag of dongles. It's not full. It usually is when I'm on the road, but I've got all my dongles in here. It's like, what do you need? What do you want? I got Ethernet. I got USB. I got I got VGA. I got HDMI. So yeah.
that's a good question. Paul Stanley from Facebook brings up the EU judgment. Was that on mobiles only, or does it go for laptops and tablets as well? And I'm not sure. So what they decided to do is kind of force Apple into using USB-C instead of a proprietary
Right.
connector on the iPhone, because the standardization helps not only the consumer, reduces waste,
Sure.
and then Apple was arguing back that it stifles their competitive edge and
Yeah.
technology,
The
pushing
lightning
technology
connector,
boundaries. But
has been around forever, and it's a really crappy pin because if you look at it, you get a lot of crud on this thing. You have to rub off with, a solution, and it doesn't work with anything else. And
Mhm.
meanwhile, everyone has moved to USB-C, which is way nicer. Lightning's not bad. It's just Apple only, right? So
Mhm.
but it certainly beats the heck out of USB-A or whatever. I don't know. I think that the judgment and the release of these MacBook Pros are coincidental. I don't think Apple came out with this decision to ship these things. The reason why I say that is because I've read online, people on Twitter have said, I've been working on the MacBook Pro that we released today for the past 2 years.
Mhm.
So I think they've been
Yeah.
listening. And if you look at all the design changes they put in, the removal of the Magic Bar, the MagSafe connector, the ports, all this stuff. This is definitely Apple listening to its customers rather
Mhm.
than being told on high, "Hey, you have to do this."
I agree with that.
Um, yeah,
These things are in a development pipeline far longer than
Oh
that
yeah, yeah,
judgment. So I think I don't even know if that has been enforced yet, because usually there's a grace period on anything that's like that.
yeah.
It's not
But
like overnight.
the reality
Good.
is that Thunderbolt and USB-C use the same connector. So
Mhm.
so you're fine.
Yep. All right, John. I think that wraps it up for today. Thank you again for being part of the show and
No worries.
bringing your articles and opinions to the audience with me. We've got lots of shows here on Code It Live this week. I'll be doing a Blazor Power Hour tomorrow. We normally have a VR show on Thursday, but Alyssa and I both have some pretty important meetings, so that one we're gonna hold off on. But Sam Basu has his chat show on Friday. Lots of good things coming here, so make sure you hit the follow button, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Starting to feel like a YouTuber now, John.
Yeah,
One of the young kids.
I know.
Hello, fellow kids.
Yes.
The meme. Anyway, we'll end it there. We'll end
All
it
right.
there. I don't have a rate or anything cool to do right now, so we'll just say goodbye, and we'll see you throughout the week. And
All
take
right.
care.
See ya.